Hi everyone. Thanks for logging in and listening in to Hustle and Heart. Here we have our very special guest, Janice. Thanks for joining us. Janice, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure, I am the executive director, volunteer executive director of Northstar Startups. We're a business incubator that supports people who face financial difficulty, start small side hustles or businesses to create greater security, financial stability, dignity, and more.
That's
That's
amazing.
such an important topic at a time when things really feel unpredictable in this geopolitical environment. And a lot of support is needed for those people that are running their businesses or those that are really new to starting. What are some of the businesses or people that are coming to North Startups right now that you find?
Sure, we find so people find us or we find them at job fairs, at food banks, through community organizations, and the people that come to us typically are people who often are on ODSP, on disability, right? The thing about being on disability is that you can earn up to $1,000 a month without it being without it being clawed back. So that means 12,000 a year potentially. That could be life-changing in terms of your choice of supplements or better food or maybe a holiday or, or whatever. So to be able to earn that extra thousand a month is a very significant, a step forward. And then there's people that maybe have difficulty holding a business, like holding a job, right? So they're rotating through jobs. And so I will see that on resumes sometimes. And then other times it's people whose jobs are just not that high level. And so they're in there at the minimum wage, $20 an hour. That doesn't support a family. Right. So these are the type of people that are coming to North Star and that we support as they build a service-based business or side hustle.
That's amazing.
It's amazing.
I, this is so intriguing and interesting that you're trying to help such folks, right? Be able to do all of these things. Walk us through why North Star is such a personal, journey for you. What made you, start? What was that one, moment which made you go like, no, this is something I want to do?
Um, so entrepreneurship is in my blood, if you will, right? Um, I started my first business when I was about, I don't know how old, but in 88, 89. And it was a conference and trade show business. I had been working for a conference and trade show company. Um, I had one son at the time and wanted to have a more flexible life. And so started that business with my late husband in order to do so. And we ran it from the house. I mean, home-based business at that time was almost unheard of. But we ran it from the house and the garage, to be specific, and ran it for 10 years. Started it during recession started a couple of years later. So it took 5 years, which I've determined is probably the norm, to really make a profit. And then in 10 years, we sold it. Another company came in and bought it from us. So that was my first step. And then from there, well, I have to admit, traveled for a year with family, kids, homeschooled as well, and then came back and I was a freelance writer.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so I wrote for companies like Scotiabank, and Pure Later. They were after the small business market. It was the early days of content marketing, right? So that's what I did, and then I took that and kind of my writing skills and some knowledge of the online world, etc. And because I was traveling again, or because I was solo again, because my husband had passed, I started a blog called Solo Traveler. So entrepreneurship, morphing into different things, has been my life, it seems. And it's also the life of many in my family. So it's around me. And I know that I have that advantage that it is around me, right? And it has also been passed down to my sons. And they too are entrepreneurs. And in two of their situations, they are ADHD and have variety of learning disabilities, but ADHD can be a superpower for an entrepreneur. And so they are really good entrepreneurs. They are not the best employees, right?
Yeah.
So to bring this up to more current times and Northstar is that as a traveler having a travel blog, I was grounded in 2020. And so I started volunteering at food banks. And I was giving out the fruit and veg, meeting lots of great people, and realized that, yes, there are some people that will always be dependent upon food banks until we get a minimum wage, an affordable income. But that there are others there who have skills and talents and that can be transferred into employment or a business. And but they may not have had the the context or the support system that makes that obvious. So what we're trying to do is make that obvious and also share the skills and the education and the mindset that makes it possible for more people to start side hustles, small businesses, solopreneurship, to greater financial stability.
That's amazing. I love that you are the first pioneer in everything. Like remote working, you made it sound so cool. It was like not there, but you started it out of your garage. You were one of the first few who got on the trend of content marketing. Just would like to understand this from this perspective because this is the day and age we're living in, and we're moving towards AI and everything else. How is that affecting what you're seeing currently in your space? I know this was like a question which we didn't decide to, talk about, but just wanted to know a brief understanding about what do you think, how is AI affecting your, areas, working space, and the people around it?
And I think what's really interesting to see is that adoption, because I know that from the government perspective, there's a lot of focus on like adopting AI and latest technologies
Yeah.
to make our SMEs, small, medium-sized businesses more productive. How do you feel the receptiveness of the people that are coming through the doors, taking in the workshops and things like that? How are they feeling about the technological landscape right now and the supports available for them to take those, adopt those technologies into their practices, whether it's for social media generation and all of that?
Yeah, it varies. So some people are very tech savvy and really adapt well, and others are not. So we've got a wide range in that regard. We do try to encourage people to use just a simple version, the free version of chat, to verify, if there's a language, if English is not the first language, let's get the grammar correct, right?
Mm,
So it's used at a very, very basic level, right, for our entrepreneurs. As an organization, we use it a little bit more in a more sophisticated level, of course, but AI is changing things, absolutely. I think that from my perspective, with my business and as what I see out there, what's interesting about AI is that it can certainly, as a tool, make building a business, managing a business more effective. But I think that you can also own a space within the market where you're providing personalized service.
mhm,
And and that I think is going to be at a premium as time goes on.
mm. That's amazing. I love that you said that, you brought in the personal, story here where you said both your sons have ADHD. I'm discovering recently that I might have that. Not been diagnosed, but I've been told. So, and they make amazing entrepreneurs, right? I love that, we have this neurodivergent, usually in the tech space or in a very big enterprise company. They do say they are diverse, but it's really not, right? You're not really, you're not really doing anything to help these people. I love that you brought that space and that story in. I would like to understand with all of these things going on, and when you look at an aspiring entrepreneur, what is that one piece of like challenge or hardest like truth you had to tell them? Like, what was like a business barrier that you're faced with these guys? One, you mentioned that one was, of course, getting them in. from the basics, maybe even, educating them on grammar and all of that. But what's like a trend that you see which has been challenging in this whole journey that you're looking to like solve, or you're already doing it?
Well, I think there's two things is that um, uh, each person I meet with, their barrier or their challenges for entry is different. So
Mm-hmm.
we have to be very agile in terms of trying to respond to it. A second thing is that unless you've lived an entrepreneurial experience in some way, people tend to see businesses fully formed. They
Mm.
don't see where they start, right? And they start small.
Mm-hmm.
They start very small, and it can take a while for them to grow and things of this nature. But and so I've had someone that came in and they'd already incorporated. I would never have suggested that that business be incorporated, right?
Mm.
But that's what they saw as being what is, that's how you become a business is you incorporate. So there are things like this where we have to help them come back to what is the entry point? What is the fastest path to cash? Which is what
Mm-hmm.
every business needs to start out with, right? When you're small. If you've got investors and all the rest of it, that's a different game. But as a small business, really, you want to find your first few customers. You want to listen to those customers because customers will tell you what your business is
Mm-hmm.
and help you define it better than you could have ever defined it yourself. So there's that piece that piece, there's the diversity of issues that people have, complexity of it. It could be child care, it could be elder care, it can be learning disability, it could be all sorts of things, right? And then there's that idea that businesses are fully formed, and then there's sometimes people come to us with businesses that we really can't help with. We think that that business is going to take a long time to make
Mm.
money. So, for example, if someone were to come to me with a blog idea and social media, I'm going to say, like, that's going to take a while, right? And there's
Mm-hmm.
guarantees in that space. It's not like you're going down the street and asking to cut someone's lawn, right?
Yeah.
You're eventually going to find a customer as you do that. Social media, influencers, bloggers, that's a different game. So when someone comes to me in that situation, what I typically do is say, okay, I'm getting a sense of what you're passionate about, what you're excited about, what your abilities are. Let's play with the idea, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because business models are everywhere. And so what we do is we try to play with the idea and see where we come to with something that is viable for us to help with. And sometimes that takes us into a whole different direction,
Mm-hmm.
right? As they reveal to me that, oh, they really like this. I go, well, that's a business. That's a business we can help with, right? And other times we kind of retool their idea. So try to get to a place where it's something that they want to do, because there's no point in pushing someone in a direction that's not going to be effective for them or good for them, and something that suits their life. So, for example, if someone has childcare issues and they can only work from 9:30 to 3, we've got to determine a business that works within that time frame.
Mm-hmm.
And then something that can move forward that we can actually help with.
That's amazing. Do you have people who come to you and say, "Oh no, but I'm still passionate about this," but you go like, "No, no, this is not the right way for you to go forward because A, you don't have the time, and B, this is not the right business fit for you." Is that like a
Yeah.
hard
How would you
conversation?
deliver?
Yeah.
How
Or
would
how would you deliver some of that difficult advice? So what do those conversations look like sometimes?
Yeah, so if someone is not kind of more malleable, most people are.
Mm-hmm.
When I point out where the problem is, most people go, "Oh, I didn't see that."
Mm.
Right? And or they didn't know that someone who's actually making money on TikTok and then selling courses about how to make money on TikTok, they're not actually making that much money on TikTok, right? They're
Yeah.
trying to find another path to make money, right? So as when I kind of share what the challenges are with their plan, um, then usually they understand. and they welcome the support to try to figure out how they can take their passion and integrate that into something that is viable. If someone is resistant, then I challenge them to go, go back to the business plan, because at this point I am looking at their business plan, and find find a path that is going to be more successful quickly,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that, and when I say quickly, we have people that have been in the program over a year. We have no end date, right? So and it takes time longer for some people than others to move forward. So it's not like, we are a 3 month program and you're out, you're fixed and you're out the door, right? That's not what we are. But we do want to help people find a reasonably fast path to cash so that they can start feeling the success.
Mm-hmm.
And then they continue and they hold on and they keep on going. And I think I've lost track of what the question was.
No, you answered it perfectly. I'm glad you said that, because mostly when you go for some of these programs, it's all about what are you passionate about? Money is going to be made eventually, but you need to have the right product fit. You need to do this and that. And sometimes it's a lot of fluff. And I like the fact that your main goal is to make sure they make money, because that should be the goal of any business, to be honest. And I've been through so many programs which will walk you through about what life-changing things they can do for you. And they have all of these weird methodologies, but then you're like, am I making money out of this, right? At the end of the day. So I'm glad you brought that up. That's really important. Hala, you have any questions?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think like speaking to the customer or developing the businesses with the customer in mind from the start is an important thing, especially in service-based, whether you're providing care or a particular service in the community, getting out there and getting comfortable, and getting those first couple of customers in so you can get their feedback and start maybe the word of mouth spreading across the neighborhood as well. Because I'm assuming a lot of the businesses you're working with are like landscaping, personal support work, to provide caregiving services to people in the community. Like there's so many different opportunities that I feel like the social services could really ramp up and provide that support, just because we're all very much stretched thin in a lot of these domains, especially like areas like childcare and elder care. With the demographic shift happening, I think there's a lot of exciting opportunities for people to really tap into those spaces and provide and give their valuable skills and support in those that it cannot be replaced by AI or technology, that really require that human connection in the community to help people that need to provide support for their loved ones. So I feel like there's a lot of, and having the tools of how to get yourself started is so important. So in terms of the objective of our conversation today, is there ways that you would ask for our listeners to get in contact with you, or how they could potentially learn about the programs, and what is the cohort schedule like?
We have a rolling intake. We do not have a cohort in a specific time, and that is also because we have no end date, right?
Okay.
So that's really important. The first step is to go to our website and sign up for the Business Basics course. This is online on Google Classroom, right?
Mhm.
And I think it's 8 modules, which takes people through the basics. What is your value proposition? What is it? What is it you're going to deliver to people as a service, right?
Mhm.
Who is going to buy that? Why are they going to buy it from you, right?
Mhm.
What are you going to charge? Where's the customer located? And we do encourage people to consider their travel time as part of their costs, right? So that people get into a very localized geographic if it's going to be an in-person service. So think about the geography. So it takes people through all those things. How are you going to market those people? How are you going to reach them? What are your expenses that you can be looking at, both fixed and ongoing? So that's what the Business Basics course is. Once people have done that, then they can apply for the business incubator. During that time, when they're taking the course, Samantha, who is our coordinator, she will reach out to find out whether that person qualifies for our incubator from both the business plan, right? If it's If it's not one that we can help with, or if it's a product, for example, she'll let them know. But also from a financial perspective, we do not ask for financial records or anything of that nature, but we do need to get a sense that they are facing financial difficulty or they're in a precarious situation, right?
Mhm.
And so that way they qualify. Anyone can take the business basics course, and we've actually had some really good response because it is so fundamental. It takes
Mhm.
people out of, all the big dream heads and puts them into the very practical perspective. So anyone can take that. And then those who qualify can apply for the incubator. And in the incubator, they get a mentor who has had business success. They might be a professional coach in a couple of situations. Some of our mentors are. They have regular workshops twice a month on mindset and business skills, a community that is active every day online, financial support for startup costs, and also special events. We just had people at the AfroCarb Fest on the weekend. So, we book booths and book our entrepreneurs into them on a schedule. And so there's just lots of, basically, if we can figure out how to do it, we do it.
I love that. Do you get a lot of support from the government or any other support groups or agencies for this? Or do you work with them? Do you partner with them?
We partner with agencies to let them know that we're here, right?
Hmm.
And that because what we do is different from most government agencies and social service agencies. We do not have any money from the government at this point in time. We are very much looking for financial support from a foundation, from a company that does, supports community organizations. We have one foundation that supported us last year to the tune of 5,000, and this year to the tune of 7,500. And they are keen on us going back and asking for more, but they want us to go back and ask for more with another partner, which makes
Mm.
sense, right? They want to see a sustainable financial plan,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
So yeah, we're looking for another partner
That's
to help.
great. We put it out there, put the word out there that you're looking for another partner.
Yeah.
Hopefully, someone in this network.
Yeah,
Yes.
and there's a lot of interesting projects that happen in the sort of the future of workspace with retraining, reskilling, and also integration of new talent from that are coming from the immigrant talent force as well. So I see a lot of the interesting work emerging in that. I work at a university, so we have some centers that specialize in different sectors of the economy in terms of retraining. So I'd be happy to share some of those resources with you as well.
Yeah. Yeah. So, we're a volunteer organization. So our resources are thin in terms of really pursuing the ongoing financial stability of the organization. We've been
Mhm.
fine so far, but at this point, I feel that I actually need to step back, and we need to get
Mm.
a professional executive director in place, even part-time, so that so that the organization gets all the resources and knowledge of that. I'm a startup person, like, I've got to be, and as a startup person, we always like have to be realistic about what our ability is for ongoing, running or any organization. Every startup person has to be thinking about that, because we tend to be startup, but not the one that's going to take an organization far, right? And that's the reality. So a goal, a very significant goal, is to get a professional executive director in place.
That's amazing. You have that sort of self-awareness for your business. That just shows that you're passionate enough to, make it grow.
Yeah,
That's
you
amazing.
care about the success of it,
Yeah.
and the succession planning is an important part of it.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. That is
That's
basically what I'm talking about is succession planning.
I want to ask, you've put your heart and soul into this, and your venture is also volunteer-led, right? So, what if someone wants to volunteer and be part of this whole journey with you? How does one go about it?
Again, go to our website. You can sign up for a newsletter, request more information, say you want to be a volunteer. And we're currently looking for a bookkeeper.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something I'll throw out there. We're currently looking for someone in IT. We've got an incredible IT backbone. We had a woman for a year who really, really, built something, but she has now got another major project and she cannot be doing this full time. So, yeah, we're looking for an IT and integrations person, systems person. Those are the main ones we're looking for at the moment. But there are always things that people can do.
That's amazing. Yeah, I hope someone who's listening in would want to volunteer and reach out to you. We're going to list your website and everything just so people can, be
Thank you.
directed.
Thanks.
Um, I would like to discuss a little more. We discussed North Star, we spoke about all of the programs. I want to talk about your journey a little more personal to you and your career. Um, how would you say North Star is separate from all the other ventures that you were part of?
Um, it's separate in that it's all volunteer work. It's not separate in that most things that I've done have not been done before. So, so I'm always kind of, I have been in a situation where, I make something out of nothing. This is what I've been doing. It seems my life. I didn't realize I was doing that so much, and it makes it, it's a bit of a challenge, but it's also really fun. And so,
Hmm.
like though it's a volunteer work and I put a lot of hours every week into it, it's fun. It's exciting. It's forward motion. This is what, thrills me in life. So,
That's amazing. And not to put you on the spot, Girish, what about you? What do you think of North Star? I know you've been listening in. What are your 2 cents? How does it feel
I
like
mean,
working
we
with Janice?
Neither. It's a great question. We have been partners for the I think for the past 2 months, and it's been an incredible journey. We are extremely grateful. Me in my capacity at Mic Drop and Mic Drop as an agency, we're extremely grateful to be supporting the mission, the commitment Janice and North Star has towards empowering, entrepreneurs, immigrant entrepreneurs, and you both of you know for a fact, Anna and Nida, how much I care about
Hmm.
immigrant entrepreneurs.
That's amazing. Yeah, I'm glad you're partnering with Girish, Janice. That's a nice, partnership. We've spoke like we said, we have done a podcast with Girish. We've, spoken to him multiple times. We think it's amazing that you guys are collaborating. And now
And we
we have
met
this.
through an immigrant community as well. So
Yes,
that's how we kind of all
we
connected. Yeah.
yes, we all
And we
met through
see
an.
the importance of connecting with people, learning, having fun, you know, having those feedback loops constantly and having that comfortable, safe environment to receive that feedback so you can learn and actually make the corrections to succeed eventually, right? Because it's success is not always instant. So that's really important. And what you're running is sort of like a community-led MBA program, which is like an ecosystem to create that type of thinking, that belief, that confidence. It's so important because not everybody can afford, you know, education at the university or college level. So bringing it to people and letting them connect with various technologies and being like, yes, I can do this too. Like, you know, there's a lot to it, but it's constant learning and that is okay. So I feel like that's a really empowering way of looking at it and creating more avenues for people to access things like this where they can learn and experiment is incredible. So it's wonderful. And the fact that it is also for the people by the people, I think that's just very, very exciting.
Yeah,
yeah.
I
Oh,
like that you don't have like a time frame in your program because I think a lot of people, when you have a time frame, you are stuck and you feel like you have to succeed within that time frame, and you don't have that.
Yeah.
That I just opens a lot of doors.
yeah. Yeah, and people come at with various situations, right? Sometimes it is, new Canadians or immigrants with their PR. We've had people without their PR. Because we are not funded by the government, we can actually support them, right? It's kind of interesting.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So, but people come with different backgrounds, right? It could be spousal abuse. It can, if that's what someone's been dealing with, that can take a very long time to get to the point where their self-esteem is such that they can go out and say, "I'm a business owner. I know what I'm doing. I'm an expert. I can offer this to you. Right. So
That's
this is one of the reasons why there is no end date, because every one of our entrepreneurs has a different backstory, and we don't always know what the backstory is. Right. So we
yeah.
have to be sensitive to whatever, what their timeline is.
That's amazing. Also, like you're really looking at a positive in some spaces where people are not. And that's amazing because with my background and the people I work with and the budding entrepreneurs, it's always people who have the money, who go, who have the, backing, the funding and all of those things, that they have the right resources to be able to give that to folks who want to do it is something really big. I'm glad you're doing that. I'm sure it helps a lot of people. Well, we would like to wrap it up, but we would like to wrap up with a nice, fun topic. What is next for you, Janice, personally, professionally? Are you planning to travel? Because I know you love traveling. Are you planning to do something exciting? What is it that you're focusing on next?
When does this podcast go live?
Today?
Oh, okay. Then I can't. There's something I can't say.
Some things are under embargo. You get
Okay,
it.
we get it. But do you want to, personally, are you planning to go somewhere, travel, vacation? I
How are
know
you?
summer's coming.
You know
And
what? I have done so much travel over the last, decade and a half of having solo traveler, that I kind of have that out of my system because I've traveled my whole life. It's always been a big deal.
yeah.
I'm actually going back to school.
Oh,
Oh, that's amazing.
and what will you be doing? If you,
I am I'm becoming an osteopath.
oh, that's very cool.
Wow, that's amazing.
I know it's a little bit unusual. People are usually younger than I than when starting this program. It's a 4-year program, but I find osteopathy fascinating. It takes care of things that no other modality has been able to care for, in my life, anyways. And the funny thing is that I always worked kind of in a a headspace in terms of what is possible, right? So starting businesses, things of this nature. And when I realized that I wanted to do this, I also realized that I have no idea how anything three-dimensional works. Other than a table, right? I don't know how a TV or, how water boils exactly. I know nothing. I am going to know how the body works, which is pretty exciting to me. So it's taking a lot of study, but I'm excited.
I love that. That's amazing. You have quite the journey, and to be able to discover something you want to do at any age should be, something exciting. I recently started like this thing during summer. Anna and I were discussing in our previous podcast where I kept putting off stuff that I wanted to do, like sewing, knitting, like all of these crafts and hobbies. And this summer, I was like, I'm going to do it all. And I've gone ahead and done like 60 different things across the summer. Every weekend, every evening, I'm doing something with my hands. And it was so nice to be away from, the screen and actually meet people and, understand people from different spheres. There's so much knowledge to be shared behind all of these, arts and crafts and everything. Like there's history. So learning all of that, it is amazing. And I love that you're like going back, learning about the body at any age should be, exciting. That's so, what triggered that though for you? What made you think that I want to do this?
Well, the funny thing is that um, I thought that I would be moving on to more of an arts scenario because I too, the criteria was that I would not be in front of a screen. I cannot be in front of a screen. I have been in front of a screen since I started the business in 88,
Yeah.
right? We have 2 floppy disks. Right? But the computer allowed us to build a business, my husband and I, that took my previous employer 10 people to run, right? And with the 2 computers, we could run it, just the 2 of us. So I've always been in front of a computer. So whatever the next stage was not going to be in front of a computer. And I thought it was going to go into arts, crafts, things of this nature.
Mhm.
And then having been treated by an osteo, it was like, what is this magic? I don't understand this magic, right? I could kind of get acupuncture. I could kind of get acupressure, like shiatsu. I could understand those things, but I could not understand this. And it took about 2 months, and then I was doing yoga one day and went, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. So, kind of a lifelong philosophy that I do share, excuse me, a lot with Northstar is always be learning.
I love
Always
that.
be learning.
Yeah. The
That's
growth
amazing.
mindset is super important now. And as you said, a lot of us are feeling very fatigued by the screens, like, and the technology and everything that they crave the in-person, the learning that happens amongst people in conversation, in sharing our passions. I think that's where we see younger generations also gravitating to. They call them like, more of us are going bird watching now than ever. And like, there's quite a resurgence of these things, and the crafts like Nida, or like whether it's physical activity, people running marathons. I know Girish, you also do a lot of endurance
I do.
sports as well. Like,
I've,
there's all of this. And I feel like, to keep challenging ourselves, to keep learning and expanding our horizons. And it's never too late to dabble into new passions and new pursuits.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. It
Well, it was exciting having you here, Janice. I hope you enjoyed the conversation.
was a lot of fun. Thank you very much.
And thanks for sharing all of this with us. Thank you.